If you are hearing these words, there is a chance you were never meant to stay in this world forever. And if you ignore this message, you will almost certainly return here again without ever understanding why. On the night before his arrest, Jesus revealed something to his closest disciples that was never meant for the masses, a truth about the human soul so dangerous it had to be buried for nearly 2,000 years. He spoke of the 12 frequencies of the human soul. Why does this matter to you right now? Because according to this lost teaching, most of these frequencies are traps designed to recycle your soul back into this exhausted world, lifetime after lifetime. Only 3 hold the key to the exit. By the end of this video, you will not only know which soul frequency you carry, you will understand why your life has unfolded the way it has, why certain pains keep repeating, and why some people awaken while others never even question the cage around them. This is not a history lesson. This is a remembering. To understand the map, we must first look at the prison. The ancient Gnostics taught that this world is not a school for learning, but a harvesting system for energy. Think about your own life. Think about the inexplicable exhaustion you feel, not from physical work, but from simply existing. Think about the sudden waves of fear, self-doubt, or anger that intrude upon your mind without permission. The Gnostics called these interference patterns Archons. They are not monsters under the bed. They are the architects of your anxiety. They feed on low vibrational energy. But here is the secret they do not want you to know. They can only feed on you if you remain asleep. But once you identify your soul frequency, their grip begins to slip. Let us find out where you stand. But here is what changes everything. Not all souls are the same. Not all consciousness vibrates at the same frequency. And Jesus knew this. He taught this in secret to those who had ears to hear. According to the Gnostic texts, particularly the teachings preserved in the Pistis Sophia, Jesus described a spectrum of soul frequencies, 12 distinct vibrational signatures that determine how a soul experiences this world and what happens when the body dies. The spectrum begins with the sleeping souls. These are the first 3 frequencies. These souls are deeply embedded in the material dream. They seem perfectly content with a life of purely eating, working, and reproducing. But they do not ask why they are here, because the question itself feels foreign to them. If you are watching this video, you have likely already surpassed this stage. Next, we enter the zone of the Seekers. This covers the 4th through 8th frequencies. This is where the struggle begins, and where most of you likely stand today. You start reading, researching, and meditating. You sense the lie, but you often get trapped in religious dogmas or spiritual trends. You have moments of breakthrough where you see the matrix and realize your thoughts aren't always yours, but you cannot sustain the clarity. You fall back into old habits. By the 8th frequency, you develop discernment. You stop feeding the drama. You become the observer. Ask yourself honestly, do you still react with rage when things go wrong? Or do you watch the rage arise and let it pass? That is the difference between being trapped and beginning to wake up. Most people who awaken never move beyond this point. Not because they fail, but because the system adapts and offers them a more comfortable cage. Now we arrive at the liberation frequencies, the frequencies the system fears most. Because once a soul stabilizes here, it never returns to the cycle again. The 10th frequency is the pneumatic threshold. At this stage, you don't just believe in God or the source. You have a direct line to it. You no longer fit in with society, not because you are antisocial, but because you are vibrating at a rate that the old world cannot sustain. The 11th frequency is active liberation. This is where you practice the art of dying before you die, detaching from the identity of the human and identifying as the spirit. And finally, the 12th frequency is the state of Christ consciousness. Total union. The prison walls dissolve because the prisoner no longer exists. This sounds impossible, but Jesus insisted it is not. He taught that you can shift your frequency in this lifetime. You do not have to wait for death. But here is what the Gnostic texts make clear and what most people misunderstand about this teaching. Your frequency is not fixed. You are not permanently assigned to one level like a prisoner given a cell number. When I first encountered this teaching, I rejected it, not because it was false, but because I wasn't ready to see myself in it. The soul is fluid, it evolves, and more importantly, it can make sudden leaps under the right conditions. And this is the secret that the Archons do not want you to know. This is why this teaching was buried, banned, and burned wherever it surfaced throughout history. Because if souls understood that they could shift their frequency, the entire harvesting system would collapse. Think about it. The reincarnation trap works because souls remain unconscious of its mechanism. You die filled with attachments, fears, regrets, unfinished desires. You see a light. You feel pulled toward it. Beings that appear to be angels or deceased loved ones greet you. They tell you that you must return, that you have lessons to learn, karma to balance. And because you do not know any better, you agree. You drink from the waters of forgetfulness. You enter a new body with no memory of the thousands of lives you have already lived. But what if you knew? What if at the moment of death, you recognize the false light for what it is? What if you remembered that the beings urging you to return are not your guides, but your guards? What if you had trained your consciousness to vibrate at a frequency that could pass directly through their net? This is exactly what the 10th, 11th, and 12th frequencies make possible. And Jesus taught specific methods for raising your vibration from wherever you currently stand to these liberation thresholds. The first method is what the Gnostics called recognition, not learning new information, but remembering what you already know at the deepest level of your being. When you hear truth, real truth, something in your body responds. You do not need anyone to convince you. The recognition is immediate, physical, undeniable. Your chest expands, your breath deepens. A warmth spreads through you that has nothing to do with external temperature. This is why Jesus spoke in parables to the crowds, but revealed direct teachings only to his inner circle. The masses were not ready to recognize. They needed stories, symbols, entry points that might plant seeds for future lifetimes. But those who had already cultivated a certain frequency could receive the transmission directly. The second method is detachment from the drama, not cold withdrawal from life, but a profound understanding that everything happening in this material realm is a kind of theater. The Gnostics described it as being in the world, but not of it. You participate fully in human experience. You love, you create, you engage. But you never forget that your true identity is the awareness watching the play, not the character on the stage. Every time you completely identify with your emotions, your thoughts, your circumstances, you anchor yourself more deeply in the frequencies that cannot escape. Every time you remember that you are the witness, the one who observes anger arising rather than the one who is angry, you lighten your vibration. The third method involves the breath itself. The word spirit comes from the Latin spiritus, meaning breath. The word pneuma, which describes the highest soul frequencies, also means breath in Greek. This is not a coincidence. The ancients understood that consciousness and breath are intimately connected. There is a way of breathing that the Gnostic practitioners used to raise their frequency. It was not complicated. Deep, slow, conscious breath while holding attention in the center of the chest. Not forcing anything, but not trying to achieve a particular state. Simply breathing with complete presence. When this is done consistently, something begins to shift in the energy body. Blockages dissolve, channels open. The inner light grows stronger. The fourth method is the cultivation of silence. Not just external silence, though that helps, but internal silence. The Archons maintain their grip on human consciousness primarily through the endless stream of mental chatter. Thoughts that repeat, that worry, that judge, that plan, that a regret. Most of these thoughts are not even yours. They are broadcasts, frequencies being transmitted into the human mind to keep it occupied, distracted, unable to perceive its own true nature. When you learn to quiet this stream, even for a few moments at a time, you begin to experience what lies beneath it. And what lies beneath it is vast, peaceful, utterly free. The Gnostics called this the silence of the Father, the monad's own nature of pure stillness from which all creation emerges. Now, how do you know which frequency you currently occupy? This is the question that brought you to this video, and it deserves a clear answer. You do not determine your frequency by taking a quiz or matching yourself to a description. You determine it by honest self-observation over time. Look at your life, not what you believe about yourself, but how you actually live. How often do you remember that you are more than your body and personality? Not as a concept you agree with, but as a living reality you experience directly. When difficulties arise, do you lose yourself completely in reaction, or do you maintain some thread of witnessing awareness? When you encounter spiritual truth, does it feel like new information, or like remembering something you somehow already knew? If you spend most of your days completely absorbed in material concerns, with only occasional flickers of deeper questioning, you are likely in the first through fourth frequencies. This is not a judgment. Most of humanity operates in this range, and every soul in the higher frequencies once vibrated here too. If you have committed to a genuine spiritual path, if you practice regularly, if you have had experiences that showed you reality is far more than the physical world, you are likely in the fifth through seventh frequencies. You have begun the journey, but the final keys have not yet turned. If you find yourself watching content like this not out of casual curiosity, but out of deep resonance, if you have experienced states of consciousness that words cannot describe, if you feel a sense of mission or purpose that seems to come from beyond your personal history, you may be approaching the eighth or ninth frequency. The threshold is near, and if something in you already knows everything I am saying, not because it is convincing, but because it matches what you have always sensed, you may be standing at the very edge of the liberation frequencies. The 10th, the 11th, perhaps even the 12th. But here is what matters most, and I want you to hear this clearly. Wherever you are right now is exactly where you need to be. The soul does not make mistakes about its timing. If you were meant to be at a higher frequency already, you would be. The fact that you are here listening, or feeling whatever you are feeling, means that something is ready to shift. The Gnostics taught that there are moments when the veils thin, moments when a soul can leap across frequencies that normally would take many lifetimes to traverse. These moments cannot be forced or manufactured. They can only be recognized and received. And I believe this moment right now is one of those moments for you. What you have heard tonight is not meant to be memorized or debated. It is meant to be felt. Here is the truth. You are not a number on a list. You are a fluid consciousness capable of quantum leaps. The fact that you have stayed with me until this moment proves that your soul is stirring. It is remembering. Tonight, do not just go to sleep. Take 5 minutes. Sit in the dark. Ask the silence one question. What am I? Not who you are, but what you are. If this message resonated with a part of you that hasn't spoken in years, then you have found your tribe. Subscribe to this channel, not for entertainment, but to keep this reminder active in your daily feed. And in the comments below, I want you to write just one number. The frequency you feel you are currently at, and the frequency you intend to reach. Declare it. Let the universe hear you. You are not here to remain trapped. You are here to break free. The door is open. Walk through.